Let's get to the story of the day. I went to the doctor to find out why I couldn't walk very far without falling asleep for the past 3 years. Any physical activity wore me out. After dye tests, the doctor was surprised that I was still alive because 85% of one main heart artery and 95% of the other main heart artery were blocked. The doctor told me not to stand up while I was lying on the table because he couldn't be responsible for what would happen if I did. From what everyone says, I should have died or would die very soon. A triple bypass surgery was planned for the next morning because it was an emergency. The next morning, my girlfriend brought my kids over to see me before my surgery on April 3, 2000. My daughter told me she wanted me to wave to her when they were in the parking lot since she knew which window was in my room. The nurse gave me something that made me fall asleep right away, so I didn't get to say goodbye to my kids. During my NDE, this guilt stayed with me. The first time I died, it was on the operating table. I didn't know I was dead. There were no tunnels, no light at the end of the tunnel, no ghosts or anything else. I had left my body and suddenly found myself in the most beautiful place I've ever seen. There's no light that can be seen. The senses are all encompassing and all of the impressions I had of them came at once. The experience was so intense that it's hard to explain because it didn't happen in a logical way and was full of feelings. I don't have nearly enough words to explain what happened, but I'll do my best. The senses are very sharp and don't really work the way they do here. Words can't describe it all, because all of the senses are tied together. We have the most words in our language because we use what we see to describe things. Even though I felt it, I can best explain it by talking about what I saw. It hurt to look at how green the grass was, but it felt so good to walk on it. When I touched the grass, I could even taste it. It tasted like watermelon. It was great to walk on the grass. It was a great feeling. Oh my God is the best way I can describe it. The nose wasn't where the smell came from. It was more like it got into my cheekbones under my eyes, like when you smell something through your nose. I didn't see everything around me like a lot of people do. I think this was because I was paying attention to the grass and other things that were closer and more obvious. What else might have been there didn't matter. I was in the mudroom, which is the best way to explain where I fit into the big picture. This is the part of the house that is neither inside the house nor outside. The mudroom is neither hot nor cold like the rest of the house. It is the busy area in the middle where guests take off their shoes and get ready to go inside. Then, there were 3 yellow lights. They came from the left side of a green pine tree that was so brightly colored it was crazy. The color of maple leaf in summertime with light coming through it. I felt like it was yellow and tasted like lemonade. Not yellow like a banana, but more like how yellow makes you feel. Kind of like how a flame dances on top of a candle at a sad dinner or how warm yellow sunshine feels. Even though I didn't see them, I knew they were there. I really can't call them beings, angels, or devils. It was more like they were there. These presences were more like potential battery power. They were just energy that was there. I didn't hear anything. I heard closer to the back of my frontal lobe, in the middle of my head. The presence to my right talks to me through telepathy. Words didn't work the way we think they do. This being said something that meant, you can stay if you want to, or you can go back. But you have to do something if you go back. I knew there was a reason I had to go back. Not because I have to do something, but because I wasn't done yet. This is hard to explain, but it's like being the boss and needing to get something done, but not knowing who will do it. I chose to go back and finish up some things. My children were a big part of why I decided to move back. Even though I was happy there, I couldn't stop being sad. I remembered that I didn't tell my kids goodbye. I needed to go back to say goodbye. Then I came back to myself. Ugh. I saw the rib splitters and heard a guy screaming. I watched as the suction device sucked blood out of the chest. Where they took the veins from the heart surgery, my left arm and leg felt like they were on fire. My heart felt like it was being pushed on. I couldn't get any air. Ouch. That hurts. I was back on the other side in a flash. Once more, there were neither tunnels nor ghosts. I just heard a pop and I was there again. But it was different this time. Even though I was there 90% of the time, I didn't feel like I was there. Almost everything about the experience was the same as the first time, but it was about 10% less intense than the first time. The second time I went there, no one met me at the door or let me into the mudroom. I was so happy to see my grandmother, Mime. The day before she got married, she looked like pictures I'd seen in her photo album. She was young, in good health, and full of life. She was very important to me because she was the only person who really cared about me. She loved me just because I was born. I didn't have to do anything to earn her love. One of the first things I thought was, why am I here? I wasn't very religious, but Mime was. I was wondering why we were both there. Mime then told me, Billy, you can't come in. You can't stay. You have to leave. I said no because being in my body hurt so much. She said she would come back with me, but I had to leave. I wanted to hug her, but I wasn't able to. She seemed to be in a soap bubble. I could feel that she was hugging me, but I knew she wasn't actually hugging me. It was like the old saying that a hug is only 10% physical and 90% other things. I popped back into my body, and to my surprise, it didn't hurt. I saw a light above the operating room lights when I was in there. It was a lot brighter than the lights in the shop. It was Mime. I knew it. My arm shot up and hit the doctor because of her. He's back, I heard. So they tried again to bring me back to life and finish the operation. Mime seemed to take the pain away by blocking it. I knew she was smiling at me because I could see it. It was really hard to get better. I was really sad. I could only see a person who'd lost a lot of weight. On the one hand, I really didn't want to be there, but on the other hand, I wanted to be with my kids. I knew I'd stay because of them. After I got better, I knew it was my job to help children. I knew I had to start a new Dungeons & Dragons den. I was moved in June 2002. I was tired of the family gathering, so I went to a place I'd never been before to get pizza. I saw that the store next to the pizza place was empty. I said no way. My logical mind told me that the town was too small to have a den in it. But it was there. At least 40 kids were on the right side of the empty store, and 30 kids were on the left. I knew this was where I would build the den. That was part of the reason I came back to Earth. The next day, I rented the space, and Cody's Castle opened on June 22, 2002, which was the summer solstice. Addendum experience. About a week after I told someone about my NDE and began to connect it to my current life, I had the most amazing thing happen to me. Friday, at 2:30 in the morning, I was on the computer in a chat room. Pop-up windows are usually something I don't pay attention to because they always want me to go into a porn site. But this time, instead of ignoring it, I clicked on it. I felt an electric shock go through the keyboard and into my arm right away. It made my whole body shiver. On the other side, there was another NDEer. Usually, I don't ask women for personal details until I know them better. But this time, I was forced to do it by things outside of myself. I asked for her phone number so that I could call and talk to her. It's true. Then when I called her, I had to ask for her address because I knew she lived less than 2 hours away. She told me where she lived. This is not like me, but I had to do it. I jumped in my car and drove straight across half the state to get there. I knew I had to go see her as soon as possible. I didn't really know where I was going because I'd never been there before, but I drove there without any trouble. At the door, she said hello. She thought I was there to have sexual relations, but I had to tell her that wasn't the case. I went there to tell her something. Within 24 hours, something terrible would happen to her, and she needed what I could give her to get through it. I was doing things I'd never done before, that I was aware of. Still, I couldn't help it. I put one hand in front of her chest and the other in the back, near her heart. "Here is your power," I told her. I felt like I took something from her as well. All of a sudden, I felt like I was giving her a lot of amazing, powerful energy. It had a square shape and came from the solar plexus. The energy came from me and went into her like wind from a fan. It gave me goosebumps all over my arms and made my hair stand on end. I told her that it was a gift of energy and that I was just the person who brought it to her. She has diabetes, so since it was morning, she went to get her medicine. The phone rang right then. "That's it," we both said. It was about to get out. When she answered the phone, she started to cry. Her mother was in critical condition. Her mother was in a coma, so she asked me to take her to the hospital. I told her I couldn't take her because it was part of her job that she had to do alone. I knew then that her mother had sent me to give her the energy and be with her daughter when she got the news. She went to take her insulin after she hung up the phone. I got a rush of energy that shot from me to her and made her freeze up like a deer does when it sees the headlights of an approaching car. She was still for about 10 beats of her heart. Then, she turned slowly toward me. She'd put the insulin in the syringe and planned to kill herself by taking too much insulin. I told her that the gift was now in her hands. She couldn't do that at that moment. At that moment, she felt like she was surrounded by an energy shield. It was like an upside-down tornado going around her. It was as if she had a new sense of strength and direction. She got her clothes and got ready as if she were going to fight. It was amazing to see how things changed. I was tired on the way home because I hadn't slept in several days. I thought back to the time when power changed hands. I felt like I got a new lease on life. I drove home feeling like I'd slept for hours.